Put on your Sunday clothes, there's lots of world out there. Strut down the street and have your picture took. Dressed like a dream, your spirit seemed to turn around. That Sunday shine is a certain sign that you feel as fine as you look. Hi everybody, welcome to Sunday with Ally for January 13th, 2013. And I have put on my Sunday clothes and I'm trying to get in a better spirit. I feel like we're in the winter blues. This is, by the way, this is the Barbra Streisand Videocast for my newbies who are first tuning in. And we will be talking about Barbra Streisand news for the last week and also for the last few months and also for the look ahead. But as I was saying, we're sort of in a quiet time right now, kind of in between projects. We could sing quiet times, no other sounds. But I think this might just sort of be the calm before the next whirlwind. I think there's very little doubt that we are all probably somewhat disappointed that the success of Guilt Trip that we anticipated has not been there. The film I still think is excellent, but the box office results have not translated. The film did not get any award nominations, unless you want to include the ignominious fact that Barbra was nominated for a Razzie Award as Worst Actress of the Year, which I think was simply a publicity stunt by the Razzies, because there's no way Barbra deserves to be listed as one of the worst actresses of 2012. Her performance as Joyce Brewster was excellent. And as far as the Razzies go, screw you. By the way, this isn't the first time they've nominated her, but you have to understand, folks, people like the worst dress list and the best dress list and all the lists that are out there, a lot of them try to use Barbra's name for publicity. So, and they don't distinguish good publicity from bad publicity. They just want to use her name. And there's not a lot that Barbra can do other than just rise above it, and hopefully she's already moving on to the next thing, which I think is going to be Gypsy. Actually, I don't think I know it's going to be Gypsy. So let's talk. That's further down my list, but let's talk about Gypsy, okay? We'll talk about Gypsy. We'll start with that. Everything I've heard tells me that Gypsy is still on schedule. It's still full steam ahead. And just because you don't read about it in the columns, just because it's not being talked about, doesn't mean that it's not being worked on. I was very, very frustrated this week to read from a lot of, Barbra fans online that they're all, living in doubt. Everybody is like, well, I don't think it's going to get made, and I don't think it's going to happen, and they're not talking about it, and it's not going to happen. These are the same people who, when it does happen, will not step up and say, gee, I was wrong. But you know what? I'd rather stick my neck out now and tell you guys what I know to be true, which is the fact that it's going to get made. As a matter of fact, I've heard that Joel Silver, the producer with Barbra, has already, extended the contracts of people involved in the production, and that's not the kind of thing you do when you're looking to save money, or if you're doubtful that the project is going to go forward. In other words, he's reinvesting. He's putting more money into the project. By the way, excuse the scratching noise. That's my little dog, Bailey, is under my desk, and she seems to be digging for china. But anyway, so don't believe what you read. Don't believe it about, or rather what you don't read, what the fans are writing about Gypsy. Gypsy's a go. It's going to happen. Whether or not Lady Gaga is going to be co-starring with Barbra, I don't know about that. I've heard that Gaga is very, very interested, but I've also heard that there are people in the Gypsy camp that are not interested. So we wait and see. Now, one interesting little thing happened this week, which may or may not impact on Gypsy, but it is a curiosity. Steven Spielberg decided not to go ahead with this big sci-fi movie that he was going to start shooting in the spring called Robocopolis. He supposedly said the script wasn't ready, and he has tabled that project until such time in the future as the script is ready. That means there is an availability, a hole in his schedule. And Spielberg has made no secret about the fact that someday he would like to direct a musical. So this might be the opportunity. God knows Barbara and Steven Spielberg have talked for a long time about wanting to work together. It may mean that this is the opportunity, or it may never come to pass. But who knows? Who knows? Let's wait and see. In other theater news, and this might be something of interest, Bette Midler has supposedly agreed to do a one-woman play, a one-character play, based on the life of Sue Mengers, who was Barbara's agent back in the early 70s. Now, Sue died last year, and we talked about it, and I wrote about it at theexaminer.com. And Sue had a very, close friendship with Barbara for a time there. Barbara was her biggest client in the world. Sue Mengers was responsible for putting Barbara Ryan and Peter Bogdanovich together for What's Up Doc. Sue also had a hand in some other Barbara projects. Barbara and Sue were supposedly at times the best of friends. When Sue married her husband, Jean-Claude Tremont, Barbara's gift to Sue was an album of French and Hebrew love songs that Barbara recorded. Supposedly, only one copy was made of this album, and it was given to Jean-Claude and Sue as a wedding gift. And it was completely unique, and nobody knows whether that's a great myth, legend, or whether it's true. Since she's passed away, nobody's ever heard, it has not surfaced as part of her estate. So anyway, that's just to show that at a time, her and Barbara were like, this. So, if Bette Midler's starring in a one-woman show about Sue's life, kind of like the Truman Capote one-man show, and there was one about, Mark Twain that Hal Holbrook did, and there've been a lot of these one-man, one-woman shows. And basically it's the person in character for the entire play, and they're either talking, reading letters on the telephone, and sharing anecdotes from their lives. And it would be really interesting how they could tell Sue's life and kind of keep Barbara out of it. Because at a time, Barbara was, like I said, her most important client, and they did have a major falling out. And there's a question about, was the falling out over the failure of All Night Long, which Sue managed to get Barbara to do the movie, which was being directed by her husband, and Barbara basically came in and replaced Lisa Eichhorn in the lead role. And for her trouble, Sue got Barbara this humongous salary, the most ever for any star at that time. I think it was like $4.5 million for about 28 days' work. And it was considered quite a coup. But when the film opened, it was a big disaster. Universal pulled it from movie theaters after 2 weeks. And supposedly Barbara was very upset with Sue over what had happened to the movie, the fact that Jean-Claude had never addressed the problems in the second act. And then there was also rumors that Barbra was ticked off that Sue expected her customary commission on the salary, which I guess was about 10%. So they had something of a falling out over that, unless that's a myth, which some people say is a myth, and other people say it was really more about the fact that Sue Mengers did not support Barbra's decision to do Yentl. And there's a great quote in a book called Is That a Gun in Your Pocket? By Rachel Abramovitz. I have the book over here. And in that book, Barbra is quoted as saying that anybody in her close circle who did not believe in her and Yentl were fired. They had to go, because Barbra only wanted people who supported her decision to make that film. And so that might have been the true reason for the falling out with Sue. I don't know. I guess we'll find out. And I guess in this play, it'll be interesting to see whether or not, A, the play actually makes it to Broadway with Bet in the role, and B, whether or not Barbra is talked about in the play. So that's another little bit interesting tidbit. Now, I'm checking my list here. I wanted to ask you guys, or mention to you guys, that I'm doing a new series, or not really a new series, it's sort of a retrospective series on my Examiner.com site on all of Barbra's albums, because I don't know if you guys noticed it, but I did. The 50th anniversary of Barbra's signing her Columbia recording contract, which was October 1962, I expected to prompt a 50th anniversary celebration. They didn't do anything. Now, I don't know whether that was Columbia Records' decision, Sony Music's decision, Barbra's decision, Marty's decision. Somebody decided we're not going to pay attention to the 50th anniversary. Now, you will notice that the Beatles celebrated the 50th anniversary, the Rolling Stones celebrated the 50th anniversary, Marilyn Monroe's death was celebrated as a 50th anniversary. There have been 50th anniversaries all over the place for things that happened in 1962. Barbra and her camp or her label decided not to make any kind of a big deal about it. I did. I've been making a big deal about it. So that said, on my Examiner site, I am going to do each week a couple of Barbra's albums, and we're going to do a career retrospective. And I'm going to review the albums, and I'm going to rate the albums, and we're going to talk about the albums. So I don't know if you guys are aware of this, but Examiner is like an interesting place for me to put up stuff, because they don't pay the way you might expect them to pay. They pay based on how many people read the stories. So I encourage you all, my readers, my friends, my listeners, to please click on Examiner.com each week when you see that I've done a new review, and give it a read. And you'll be doing me a favor. Okay? And trust me, it's interesting reading. Even if you know, 'cause, I mean, let's face it, Barbra's got over 60 albums. There's a lot to talk about. And so this past week I did the Barbra Streisand album. And upcoming, of course, is the second Barbra Streisand album. And then we're going to take it from there. So that's what's going on. Now, you might have seen Barbra, if you've gone to the grocery store or the supermarket, you might have walked through the checkout and noticed that Barbra's on the cover of the National Enquirer again. And it says that Barbra had a meltdown. So, of course, I had to open it up and see, what is Barbra melting down about? What is this? Well, get this, folks. On New Year's Eve, James Brolin's son, Josh Brolin, was arrested for public intoxication. It was New Year's Eve, and he was drunk. And he was arrested, and that's the big story. Now, according to this article in the National Enquirer, Barbara is flipping out and told James, you've got to do something about your son. He needs to go to AA. He's an alcoholic, and we have to take care of him, yada, yada, yada. Take it for what it's worth, folks. I kind of think that if there was any kind of family, tumult about this, it would not be in the National Enquirer. And also, it's not like Josh Brolin is 18, 19 years old. He's a grown man. He has children. He's married to Diane Lane. If anybody should be having a meltdown, it might be Diane Lane, not Barbra Streisand. So that's what's going. That's what that story is all about. Now, last week I got an email from somebody who asked me if I would share some of my memorabilia and show it with you guys and talk about it, do a little show and tell on Sunday with Ally. So that's what I'm going to do. So let me start by showing you this. This is a rock. And it's, you see, it's the music of the opening lines from Evergreen, Barbra Streisand, One Love, Angels and Evergreen, and there's a little star there for Star is Born. Now, I got this at a mall. Somebody was there doing these, they were called, hold on a second, let me put on my glasses so I could read this. It's been so long since I've looked at it. It's called a Original Tombstones by Zovar. And this was done in January 1977. So this thing was right after the movie opened. I had it made, and I've had it ever since. And someday I'll probably use it to, beat Leslie's brains out because when he drives me crazy. But this is my tombstone, and it's for Evergreen. Isn't that kind of cool? So that's one bit of memorabilia. Now, more memorabilia. Okay, this is, as you can see, an image of Yentl. And this is by the artist Amsel. You see his name is signed there, Amsel. And this is a reproduction, which I had framed. But the interesting story about this is that this original artwork was not for the poster, although I think it would have made a hell of a great movie poster. This was going to be for a TV guide cover. And Amsel had done some wonderful Barbra stuff. He had done a Hello Dolly thing, and he did a What's Up Doc thing. And that was going to be for the TV guide cover for the 2020 interview, Papa Watch Me Fly. But they decided not to use it, or they decided not to put Barbra on the cover, and therefore Amsel's art was unused, and it since has, popped up on his, there is an Amsel website where you could see it there. But I got that one years ago, and I had it framed because, to me, it's a beautiful, beautiful representation of Barbra as Yentl before she cuts her hair, before she becomes Anshel. Now, this very old-looking item, in fact, let me take off the cover so you can see it better. There you go. That looks better. These are the buttons that were created in 1994 for the first Barbra Streisand concert, the concert. And they were supposed to sell these at the concession stands, but for whatever reason they changed their minds and they decided not to. And you see there was a set of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. There was a collection of 7. You can see it's numbered. This is number 1951 of 2,200 sets that were created. And each one of the buttons obviously is similar to some of the artwork that was being used at the time. For whatever reason, they decided they didn't want to go through with the buttons. So all of these were you know, subsequently, I don't want to say dumped, but they were basically not used by Sony Signature, and eventually fans were able to buy them, I think online and in other places, but never at the concerts. So that's a little interesting tidbit. Now here's another interesting little tidbit. In, let's see, what year was this? This was 2000. When we did the Barbra reunions, the Barbra Streisand fan conventions, the last one that we did was called Back to Broadway. And we held it at the New York Roosevelt Hotel, and it was in the year 2000. And, yeah, it was 2000. And we decided that we would do a set of, oh, actually, I'm sorry, it was 2001. There's the date, 2001. We decided that we would do a set of buttons, just like they did. And there are our buttons. And this was made available to our followers. And I think we did a damn good job. Isn't that beautiful? This was the 5th and last Barbra reunion. And in fact, somebody added this one. Here's a soba. Now, what is a soba? That's James Brolin, by the way. A soba is a significant other of a Barbra addict. So Leslie, my husband, would qualify as a soba. Interesting item about the Back to Broadway, and that was the last Barbra reunion. And I was living in New Jersey at the time, so it was my responsibility to find a place for us to hold the reunion. And one of the places that I went and looked at before we settled on the New York Roosevelt was the Marriott at the World Trade Center. And I was in the spot where just a few months later the towers went down. And it was a very, to this day, it's very eerie to remember that I was there, I was on that promenade, I was in that building, I was on that site, just a few months before the towers went down. Very, very eerie. Anyway, not to end this on a sad note, because that's not what this is about. Let's end it on a happy note. I wanted to show you all my little stash. I'm becoming very much like Joyce Brewster. Look, I got my M&M's peanuts. And I'm trying to control myself. Barbara had the little fun packs. I got a little bigger pack. And I'm keeping it near my computer. So every time I get a little gnawing and I need a little something, I reach for my M&M peanuts, just like Joyce. So, all right, I'm going to wrap this up now. I certainly hope that this stays in sync. I cannot guarantee it. There's something going on with Macintosh and Apple. I mean, they told me to use iMovie. I'm using iMovie. We're still out of sync. I'm not using Photo Booth anymore. I can't tell you why, but hopefully you're still enjoying the broadcasts. You're still enjoying Sunday with Ally. I will be back next week with more on the 20th of January and every Sunday for the rest of the year, and hopefully we'll have more good news. One final reminder for anybody who would like to contribute to my fund, I am always happy to accept donations, and I certainly need them. Here you go. It's the Nothing's Impossible Project.blogspot.com. As you know, I am trying to make ends meet with my cancer and the medical expenses, and anything that you guys can do to help me. If you want to support the Sunday with Ally broadcast by giving a couple of bucks here and there, every little bit helps. And thank you very, very much. And remember too, you can still go to the book patch and order some of the Barbra books that are for sale, and they're also on eBay. Barbra Memories and Between the Grooves. So until next week, this is Ally Waldman signing off, and I'll see you then. Bye-bye.